Hey, how's it going everyone? My name is Brandon Clements and welcome back to another video here on Glasshand. Today I am super excited to talk to you guys about actor components inside of Unreal Engine. If you haven't seen the previous video, please go check it out. I was super happy with all the response for the blueprint interface video. I'm going to leave a link to that in the top right. It's going to be a great video for you to watch just for your blueprint knowledge base. Just to be able to use those interfaces in your project is super powerful. But today we're going to talk about actor components and why they are so special and why they are so powerful. And to sum it all up, it's basically you can create your own custom components that you can add into your blueprints so that you kind of adhere to the single responsibility principle, so that you could create an attack, a damage, a health, a death component. You can create any type of component that you would like, and you can reuse those components inside of other blueprints. So it makes it really easy to just go back and refactor something, and then it propagates to everything in your game. So I'm going to show you an example real quick of what we're going to do. We're actually going to use the third person template, and I'm just going to jump on this box enough times, and if I keep applying damage to this box, it actually explodes and it spawns a particle system, an audio wave file, and yeah, that's basically what we're going to create, but we're going to use actor components. So let's go ahead and dive into that. Okay, so I am in a complete fresh project right now. This is using the third person template inside of Unreal Engine 5. What you want to do really quick before we get started is go ahead to add, and we're going to add feature and content pack, and we're just going to use the starter content and grab some particle stuff from this later. But as you can see, it's just simple, basic. But what we want to focus on are these cubes here. So in the template, these are turned on, they have physics enabled. I just want to grab one of these, and what you can do is come up here to the blueprint drop down, and you can go to convert selection to blueprint class. I'm gonna go ahead and just harvest the components here, and I'm just gonna choose actor, and we're going to make a new folder. We're gonna call this blueprints, and then inside of here we're gonna go ahead and hit OK, and we're gonna call this BP underscore cube. So this is the thing we're going to be interacting with, and we're going to open this up. And once we have this open, we're going to add a few components here. The first thing, I'm going to add a box for collision. So I'm just going to actually just search for box collision, and I'm going to move that up a little bit so that when we jump on top of the box, this is what's going to be generating the events. So we want to make sure that under collision we have generate overlap events turned on. We can scroll down and we can say on component begin overlap. This is where we're going to start our logic. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get rid of this stuff. I don't think we need it right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something simple here. We're just going to set up in the event graph how we can apply damage. So we're going to go ahead and get our player character. We'll take the character, and we're just going to cast to our third person character. So this is the actual character controller that we are using in the game. So we cast to it just to make sure that we are focused on that class and nothing else, since we're only going to have one of these in our game as a one player game. And so we'll take this and we're going to actually grab the capsule component from this. So we're going to get the capsule component. This is the, if we go, let me demonstrate this really quick. If we go to third person blueprints, third person character, and we go to the viewport, this capsule component is what we are grabbing on this specific class to make sure that if we overlap with this, we're going to do something. So we're going to just say overlapping, let's see, get overlapping component is what we want, because we're basically taking the component of the box here, and we can call this something else. Actually, I'm going to name this to something like hitbox, so this becomes more clear that the overlap component is the hitbox. We're going to make sure that we are overlapping with the capsule. Okay, and then if that is true, then this event is going to be successful and something is going to happen after this. Okay, So we want to cause damage if we do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this, and we're going to come into our blueprints folder. We're going to go to new folder, of course. And I like to put our actor components into its own folder. So actor components. And I know for this video, we're going to create 3 actor components. So I'm going to go down to blueprints, actually blueprint class, and then we can grab our actor component here. So I'm going to create a damage component. I'm going to create a death component. And then I will also just make a generic health component that I can attach to anything. So we're going to name this health component. And we'll go ahead and select these, and we're going to save. Okay. So the easiest one that we're going to set up is our health component. It's pretty generic, and there's really not a lot of logic that I'm going to show you today for this. Just something to note, if you come up here to functions and it says 3 overrideable, so you can say override. This is where you can grab your begin play, end play, and tick. And that's what's available to us with this actor component. So I'm going to go ahead and say event begin play, and I'm going to start creating some variables here. I'm going to name one that's just called health, and this is going to be our variable that just holds our health, and I'm going to make it public so that we can change it. I'll create another variable that's called max health, and this is just going to be another float type, and again we'll make that public so that we can change it in the editor if we ever want to. So for max health, I'm going to set that to 100, and for health, I'm going to go ahead and set that to 100 as well. I'm going to do a bit of redundancy here by taking the health and setting it to max health at begin play. So let's go ahead and get max health, and I'm going to add just one more thing here. I'm going to do clamp float, and what this is going to allow us to do is it can never be below 0 and it can never be above 100. And so I'll go ahead and make sure that that is clamped on begin play. And that will be pretty much it for this component, for this health component. Okay, so let's move on here. I have our damage component. So let's go in here and start setting up what we can do with our damage component. Similarly, we're going to do something here on event begin play. So I'm going to go to override begin play. And then on this event, we are going to set up some variables. What I'm going to have here is something called damage amount. And what damage amount is how much are we inflicting when we damage something. And we can make this public as well. And we'll go ahead and compile, and we'll set a value to 20, just so maybe this box is flimsier than other boxes. So that's in our game, and we can drag that out and get, and then we're going to set that just for redundancy at the beginning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something interesting here. What I'm trying to do is get a variable, get a reference, cache a reference, I should say, to our owner. So I'm going to go ahead and say get owner, and this is whatever has the component on it. So this can be anything, and you're going to see how modular this is going to become as we go further in. I'm going to promote this to a variable, and this is going to be a variable called owner. I'm just going to cache this at the beginning on play so that we can call upon the owner later and do some fun stuff with it. Or we could talk between our different components and say, hey, who's the owner? What's the owner? We can reuse this thing. It's actually pretty cool. All right, and so I want to go ahead now and set up some logic that involves taking damage. So our single responsibility that we're going through on this tutorial is anything that has to do with damage we're going to do in the damage actor component. It seems pretty obvious, right? Like, why would we want to do that? Well, when you start prototyping, or you need to do a minimum viable product or something for work or for your client, you tend to just kind of go really fast and not think about how you can scale some of this stuff. And this is just going to be super helpful if we can contain everything that has to do with damage into this damage component. So I'm going to just create a custom event here, and this is going to be called take damage. Okay. And so what I would like to do is, if something was to take damage, we would have to have a reference to its health, right? Because we're going to subtract a certain amount, the damage amount that we've created here. So let's go ahead and get a reference to our owner, and we're going to say get component by class. Okay, and we want to make sure that the owner also has the health component on it as well. Again, this is something that if this is not valid, it could crash our game, or at least cause a lot of errors and a lot of weird things. So what we want to do is make sure that this is valid and check to see if we have remembered to apply this to our character or barrel or any other object that could be in our game. And if not, then we can do something. If so, let's actually make it take damage. So that's what we're doing here. And I hope this is making sense. And again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, because I love to answer questions. There's never any dumb questions. Trust me, there are no dumb questions. And stay curious. So if we get this component, we want to make sure that we have a reference to the health. So we're going to get the health, and then let's subtract this health. So I'm just going to type minus to get a subtraction function going. And then we're going to reuse our damage amount. So let's get its health, and let's subtract it by the damage amount that we're specifying. And then we're going to, again, just set the health. Okay, so again, this is going to look a little crazy with our pins, but we need to get the owner, and we need to get its health. So we're going to set the health. And I'm going to create some reroute nodes by double-clicking on the blue wire so that this can look all nice and pretty. And people on our team can actually read what's going on. That's a big thing. Even if you're a solo developer, you need to be able to read your code later and understand what you were trying to do. Okay? And if something's out of whack, you can select them and hit Q on the keyboard, and it will kind of align them for you, which is really nice. Super nice tip. Okay, so this is the basic logic that we have for getting the health, subtracting the damage, and then again we have to set it after we subtract, or else we're not going to remember what's going on. Okay, so that's pretty good. I think we're good there for our damage. We can also, just to help us, debug, we can use a print string. So let's go ahead and do a print string here, and we're just going to put this into here, compile and save, and let's see if this is going to work. Now, I already had that selected, and it actually replaced this BP cube. Notice when I harvested everything and created the blueprint, these over here are still just regular SM underscore chamfer cube 3, right? It's just a regular static mesh with physics turned on. But if I right click and I can say replace selected actors with, and let's go to our blueprint and have this selected, and then right here BP cube, our blueprint that we just created. So let's go ahead and replace these guys too, because we're going to want to jump around on this and cause some havoc. So let's go ahead and go into play mode. We'll start jumping on these guys. And nothing is happening. So let's go ahead and figure out why nothing is happening when we jump around on our cube. First of all, I have made a mistake, and I like to keep these in the videos because when I do this stuff, I am not perfect. Trust me, by a long shot. Let's not have our print string in the damage component. Let's go ahead, compile, and save. What we should have done was, after we overlapped, we need to do something here. So we're going to first add the components. Wow, we didn't even add the components. Amazing, amazing. You guys came here for quality, and you know what? I'm giving you quality today. So we're going to add damage, and we're also going to add health to this. Okay, this was the whole point of the video, and I forgot to add him. That's amazing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our damage component. And what I want to do here is call the function take damage that we've already got. And then what I could do here is actually grab the health component and get the health from this. So get health. And then let's put this on our print string just to debug. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Let's go ahead and try this out now. We're going to run up to our cube. And there we go. 60, 40. We're subtracting by 20, 0. And it went to negative 20. So that's perfect. We don't want that to happen. Let's go in and make sure that that's not happening. So under our health component, this is only set at the beginning. So this clamp is just working on the beginning, which is a nice debug thing. You could actually, on the damage component here, clamp the health amount, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to just go forward from here because what I want to do is create a die component. So what happens when this cube dies? We're going to add that next. So our die component, or I think I called it death component. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is pretty cool. You can see how modular this is. Of course, we have to call the take damage. We have to specify how we're taking damage, but then everything else is just kind of working, which is great. So let's go ahead and compile, save. I'm going to go back to our actor components. I'm going to go to our death component, and nothing is in here. So how do we know when we're going to die? Well, that is all stemmed off of our damage component, right? So if the damage was to go under a certain threshold, then we would die. There's a number of different ways that you can set this up. The way that I like to set this up is after a certain amount of subtraction here, you know, we're going to call a function called die, okay? So I can set up that function here. So I'm going to add a custom event, and I'm going to call it die, okay? And so I don't forget, I'm going to come back over, grab our owner, and again, I'm going to do the same type of thing. I'm going to get the component by class. The component is death, so we need to search for that. Our death component. Let's make sure it's valid. So is valid. And then this will be executed. And if this is true, then we will die. Okay. Now certain conditions need to be met before we can actually die. And we can set that up in the death component. So here I'm going to do some very similar types of things. I'm going to first of all, event begin play. Let's initialize some things. On event begin play, I would like to, let's see. I think the only thing I want to do here is just get the owner and cache it. So let's get our owner, whoever owns these components, and promote this to variable, and we're going to call this owner. Okay, so we cache that at the beginning. That's great. That's all fine and dandy. We're going to get component by class again. And what we want to get information from is our health component, right? Because if it's under a certain threshold, we're definitely dying, right? So let's go ahead and say is valid. Make sure that we have that before we continue too far. I need to get a reference to our health. So I'm going to get our health. And if our health is under 0, so less than 0, I'm going to hold B and get a branch by holding B and left clicking. Then something is going to happen. So I'm going to do a little bit of some fun things here. You totally don't have to do these things. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play some sounds. All right. So let's play one sound. Play sound at location. And I'm going to play the explosion 01. That's going to be perfect. You could create a variable, right click on this and promote this to a variable, and then you can, you know, go around your scene and choose which sound you want to play. You could have an array of sounds. There's a lot of things you could do. Just kind of want to throw that out there. But I want to get the location of our owner and play a sound at that location. I also want to spawn some particles. So I'm going to spawn an emitter, and I'm going to do it at the location of our owner. And I'm going to actually spawn the explosion emitter, and that came from our starter content pack. And then I'm going to go ahead and destroy everything. So after this, you want to make sure that you do everything before you destroy the actor. Okay, so I'm going to say destroy actor. I'm going to turn off context sensitive just to make sure that we are destroying the owner. I should have got a reference to the owner. But you can do it this way. Either way, this will work for us. Let's go ahead and compile, save. And now let's review really quick. Okay, first off, we have our health component, which is clamped at the beginning. It's cached, and it's set to the max health at the beginning. Our health is set to max health on begin play. And then our damage component, we are doing just a few things here on initialization. We are saying get our damage amount and set it. So, you know, this could be something that a designer changes in the editor based on different actors. And then we're going to get our owner and set that as a reference. And then for take damage, we're going to get the owner, get our health component, and make sure that we have a valid health component. And then we're going to subtract our health by the damage amount and set our health. After that, we are going to try to see if we can run this die function. Now, this function is going to be called every single time that we jump on our object. That may be something that you don't want, but for me, it's just we're calling it, and we're actually not going past this branch unless we are at 0. And if we are past 0 health, meaning we have depleted under 0 or at 0, then we are going to play a sound at the location. We're going to spawn our explosion particles, and we're going to destroy the actor. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that out. We're running, we're jumping. We're causing awesome damage here. Super strong. And there we go. And we destroyed it. Notice it is less than 0. So right now it's at 0. And then it explodes. If you want to change that, super easy. We can come into here and do less than equal. So less than equal to 0. All right. And you can see how modular this is. And if you had, you know, all kinds of things that needed to die in your game, then you just set up the death component once and you set up a few rules, and there we go. When we hit 0, baby, we are blown away, right? Get out of here, cubes. And you can create, every time you take damage, you can create sounds that happen there. So every time you were jumping on the box, you would create a sound. And it looks like we have, let's see, we had an error here. Oh, this is, let's see. Oh, our print string function. We can go ahead and get rid of that. So let's go back to our blueprints. Yeah, it's trying to access this even after it's dead, right? So let's go ahead and compile and save. And we'll do that one more time. Because when take damage hits 0, there is no object to get a reference of any of that data from, right? It's just gone. It's just gone. And wow, I hope that you guys who are wearing headphones love me at this point. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'll edit it in post if it is. So now that we exit, we don't have any errors, none of that print string stuff. It was just something we were monitoring. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And leave me a comment below because I love hearing from you guys, seeing if you're using this. This workflow kind of reminds me of the Unity type of workflow that I was using, where I would just create single responsibility scripts and add those scripts to the objects that I needed to have the functionality in. So let me know if you guys like this video, what you want to see in the future. And as always, take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Hopefully it won't be too long. See you then.